Hello baby gangsters, this is Calvin, also known as Romer, and this is me reflecting on 2023. In fact, we're looking back on all the games that I played on 2023 and we're going to rank them from 10 to 1. Now there's 11 games here, but the thing is we're not going to be ranking Danganronpa V3 here. Wrong thing. I'm using Procreate here. That's the thing I used to draw, and I thought it might be fun to use this to also rank these things. If they are a little bit blurry, I do apologize, but I did think this was the most fun way to do it, so we can have like a kind of a visual of what I'm doing at the same time and my thought process, and also I can do stuff like this, you know. It's cool. Basically, we're gonna be ranking these games and how much I like the games, but also how much I like the playthrough at the time. And I just want to say that all these playthroughs are really great. I have the advantage of playing games on the channel that are all good. I'm not one of those channels that plays games that are bad just to make fun of them. That's never something I do, even though those channels are very fun sometimes as well. And I like some of those channels too. Mindpulp, I think, is one of the channels that does that, and that's okay. But for me personally, I play really fantastic games that are critically acclaimed, and I'm hoping to continue to do that as I'm going forward. We're just gonna be ranking these games from 10 to 1. That's it. There's no hard feelings. All these games are good, and it's not about, oh, this game is bad or this game is bad, because there's not a bad game on this list. On the number 10 spot, we're going to give it to Security Breach. And that's just because I feel like as I was playing this game, it was a really, really fun game, really, really good shooter, a scary game, got to get reacquainted with the horror style that I love so much. And it was like very, very fun for the longest time. I think the thing that drags it down for me all the time is those robots, those robot-like cleaners that are going about the place and you have to like avoid them. They kind of made it less fun, if that makes sense for me. But I still think the playthrough itself was really fun. I still think you guys really liked it too and really liked me being scared of stuff. Some of the stuff was really scary. It did get less scary though as time went on. It did get really less scary. And that was because there was so many times where you're just like walking through this place and like something is stopping you every 2 seconds. Still very fun. I think Ruin, if we were just, ranking Ruin, it would be a lot higher because Ruin is really terrifying. It's really scary. Number 9, Ultra Despair Girls. I think it's fair to put this in the number 9 spot because it has so many great characters. I had such a great time with you guys playing this game. Chapter 3 drags it down quite a bit for me, but I think even without Chapter 3, you're talking about so many amazing games this year. I feel like this game, doesn't take itself seriously all the time, which isn't a bad thing, but also at the same time, it should have taken itself more seriously with some of the themes, especially in Chapter 3, in my opinion. Which kind of it didn't make me like the game less, really. It just made the enjoyment of Chapter 3 go down by a mile. And that's not something you don't want to have with an entire chapter of a game, in my opinion. And you guys kind of all agreed on that as well. In terms of the actual playthrough itself, where we were playing at the time, there was always this plan to play this game, but I didn't think it would be so soon. And I think you guys really enjoyed the fact that I even chose to play this game in the first place, which is really cool. Next after that, it's Super Mario Bros. Well, how do I draw an 8? What's an 8? There we go. Super Mario Bros. Wonder. Super Mario Bros. Wonder is a really fantastic game. It's a very clean game. It's a very colorful game. But if you ask me today to remember kind of the feeling I had when I was playing the game, I don't really remember it as much as I do the other games on this list, the actual feeling I had when I was playing these games. It's just a really fun, clean game, really easy to get through. And I really find that it is just a super, super fantastic experience sometimes. I don't know, I do understand that a lot of people probably love this game. A lot of people thought this was one of the Game of the Years, and I do think it should be nominated for Game of the Year. It won't be in my Game of the Year list, however, which I know is a weird thing to say, just because my Game of the Year list is going to be very, very to the point this year, because I feel like I didn't play as much games this year. But I do think this, again, like I said, it's very clean, it's very colorful, the art style is fantastic, the fun is off the chain, and there's no hard feelings about being 8 on a list like this. It's absolutely no hard feelings whatsoever. And number 7, Metroid Prime Remastered. It's crazy we played this game this year, or last year. It's crazy that there's even a thought that we played this game. This feels like forever ago. And that's how time feels sometimes. Metroid Prime Remastered is an absolutely fantastic game. It's one of the best games in terms of level design. I love playing through it. At the time, it was very difficult because I'd never really played a game that was so like that on the channel, because it is kind of like a test for the channel, right? It's can we play a game where there's no for a Let's Play, you have to kind of figure stuff out. You kind of have to continually figure things out. I think one of the things that made the playthrough a little bit hard for you guys to watch and for me to play as well, and you guys might agree, was the fact that we took a break in between episodes, we lost some footage, and also at the same time, if we're talking about this as a playthrough, I think I complained a little bit too much about the collection stuff at the end of the game, and I can acknowledge that now, that it was my fault. that I had to collect all the artifacts at the end of the game instead of collecting them as I went along, but I didn't know where to find the artifacts. That's the problem, but it just made sure that the last episode was like basically 3 hours of just looking for artifacts, which isn't fun for me or you guys, I think, and I think you guys would agree with that. Next on the list, and again, this is getting more and more difficult. Next on the list, we're going to do number 6, and I think we're going to put Super Mario. No, we're going to put Hollow Knight. Hollow Knight is like a 9 out of 10 game, 9.5 out of 10 game. I love this game to death. I think there was a bit of a controversy at the time about how much I finished the game. I am going back to finish the game now and kind of like do the true final boss, as they call it. Hollow Knight, for myself, even though there's no canon ending or something like that, I don't know, like it's not really worth talking about now. But for Hollow Knight, for me, it's a really just fantastic game in terms of combat. I think the style is off the charts, but I also think the music and like the vibe, the ambiance of the game is so incredible. It's actually haunting when you think about it. I went back and played a bit of it, like 3 hours of it recently, and it tortured me. It kicked my arse. But even after the torture, after you fight all those enemies, you feel like, holy crap, I've definitely accomplished something. And it was this feeling of accomplishment through this whole playthrough. In real life too, Calvin was feeling accomplished. I was just feeling so good after every time I beat a boss. And finding bosses was like the most exciting thing in the world. It really was. Mario Odyssey is next. Mario Odyssey is another incredible game. This is a smooth game. If you're talking about smooth games like we talked about Super Mario Bros. Wonder, Mario Odyssey is like, to me, the perfect evolution of the 3D platformer in terms of Mario. I really feel like Super Mario Sunshine will always be my favorite Mario platformer, just 3D platform, just because it is like this feeling of like, not nostalgia, but this warm feeling whenever I think about it. But when I was playing Mario Odyssey, I really felt like nothing could touch me, nothing could hurt me, because it is that comfortable, beautiful game that has some of the best like enemy designs, has some of the best world designs. Going through this game is a treat. Like every single minute, it's like, oh my god, on the eyes, on the ears, everything. Even like touching the buttons felt good because you knew that you were getting these precise, amazing movements. The reason it's not higher is just because the other games to me are going to win out, and there's a hypocritical number that's going to be coming up here very soon. But regardless of how hypocritical it is, I had to put it on the list. I think you guys also would say that Mario Odyssey is probably one of my better playthroughs, I think, in terms of like good playthroughs. But it is like a perfect evolution of platformers almost. At number 4, I'm going to put Pikmin 4. This game is like near perfect. And I think this game is like near perfect. I think the problem with a game being like so perfect all the way through, and this is going to sound so weird, is that like, you know, there's no ebbs and flows in Pikmin 4. And that's not a terrible thing, because it's one of those games like, oh my god, this is good all the way throughout. But because there's no lull moments of like, oh, this moment was bad or this moment was bad, it's hard for me to go like, this moment was super high, because when I think about this game, it's jumbled together in this perfect, like, oh my god, everything was amazing. And that's why it's number 4. Number 4 is very high. It was an incredible time for me. I love playing Pikmin. We're going to play more Pikmin this year. We're going to be talking about that as we're going forward. This was just a really like great game. And not only that, in terms of playthroughs at the time that we were playing, I really had just like an incredible fun time playing this game. Every day I picked up the controller and there was not a bad feeling whatsoever playing this game. It felt great to play a game like this, and I truly enjoyed my time from start to finish. I think they added a lot of new mechanics that were great. The bosses were great. I loved the camp system. The nighttime expeditions were really fun. And Pikmin, if you haven't played Pikmin, it is difficult sometimes. I think Pikmin 4 is more difficult than 3, but regardless of that, it still is one of the best games that came out this year, and it should have been nominated for GOTY. It's incredible. Number 3, we're going to pick the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. Hypocritically so, I think I complained a lot about this game, and I think that made a lot of you guys not want to tune into this game as much as you did before, and I totally understand that. You could see kind of the dip in like people being engaged in the playthrough, as what happened was I basically was saying the pacing wasn't great, and you guys were like, no, the pacing's not too bad, and like you're talking too much about the pacing, he's complaining too much about the pacing, and I totally agree with that looking back on it now, because in terms of making a fun playthrough, you just be yourself, right? And that's what I was doing. But I think even I could have admitted that I could have like talked a little bit less about the pacing and talked more about like why the pacing was not good, or maybe talked about the good parts of this game, because there are so many amazing good parts of this game. The example that I always give in this game is that the characters are incredible. They're so well written. The art style is beautiful. I think the music is absolutely fantastic. And if I focus more, on the good parts, which is what I like to do, the good parts outweigh the bad. And it's funny because even though like we finished this game in the end and we took a long break from this game, I finished this game in the end. And like all of a sudden the pacing issues that I had in my head, I never think about those anymore. Only now when I'm thinking about what could have been the issues of the playthrough at the time, I never think about those. I look back on Ace Attorney Chronicles, the first game we played. We will be playing the second one eventually too. And I just think this was amazing. This is so beautiful. And thinking back, I get emotionally like choked up because of how good the characters are, how good the story was. Yes, there was times when it was like, yeah, the pacing is weird. But like, when I think back on a game like this, and it's like that for some of these games as well in this, but when I think back on Ace Attorney Chronicles, I instantly get choked up. And that has to count for something. And for me, that's why it's at number 3. Now we have the top one and the second, I guess the second one. So we're going to kind of do them at the same time. And I have no problem doing this because they're both incredible games. Danganronpa 2, Goodbye Despair, was, you know, it was one of those games where I was like, oh, through the whole thing I was like, this isn't my favorite Danganronpa game. The first one is definitely better. And then as the game went on, you realize how good this game is and how much they improved so many things, how much they added to these games. And I think they've done a lot more like with that with V3 as well. But Danganronpa 2 has some of the most amazing characters, has such an incredible cast. I didn't think that they could like etch themselves into my heart, but they did, compared to what they did with the first game. And then you look at something like Tears of the Kingdom. Tears of the Kingdom was like one of my favorite times ever on the channel. Getting to play this game for all of you guys, but also just getting to play Tears of the Kingdom again. And like Breath of the Wild, I should have said, like another Breath of the Wild, just like more advanced. I got into this game emotionally. Exploring in this game is just the most perfect feeling in the world. That like, when you think back on, when I think back on this game and I think of just like walking over like grassy lands or climbing over rocks, that's the feeling that gets me every time. I feel so good thinking about that. And the story is good. Like, if you look back on the story, it is good. And I understand there is some inconsistencies from the first and the second game. I don't really mind that too much because I got emotionally invested in the story and there's some amazing reveals in this game too. But also at the same time, just playing this game with you guys was fun too. Seeing your guys' reaction to this, seeing you guys, oh, I didn't find this, or oh, you should do this. And it was actually a really good, like, you know, melding together of all of our, like, views on this game. And not only that, as well, it's just Zelda. And it's hard for me, and I know it's kind of a bias, and it is a bias, it's hard for me to not put Zelda at number 1 because Zelda means so much to me. Zelda is the reason this channel is a thing. The Zelda series is the reason that I even have a channel. It's the reason I became like this thing where I wanted to do this all the time. It means the absolute world to me, and this was no different. And even if there is a bias there, this game is absolutely incredible. It's absolutely incredible, and it is one of my few nominees for Game of the Year as well, and I would stand by that fully. Just so there's no hard feelings for anybody, I want to do something really quick, and that's, I want to point out very quickly, the rating I would give to each of these games, and that's a 7.5, and that's just because the glitches and the monsters. This is 9.5, this is 9.5, this is an 8 just because my own problem with the collectathon stuff. This is, I'd say, an 8, this is a 10, this is a 10, I know, this is so hypocritical, This is a P for perfect. This is a P for perfect. And I would say this is an 8 as well. And that's my ratings for all the games too. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I really I'm looking forward to 2024. 2023 was a really fun time as well. We're hopefully going to get more playthroughs than this done. If we can get to this point where we are able to do more playthroughs, I think this would be a really fun time to do more playthroughs. Because here we did, like, we finished 11 playthroughs, but really we finished 9.5 or 10.5, 9.5. Because this was started in December, and this is also started in December too. But we're actually like getting through this like really well at this point. I feel like I'm a sports guy. He hit him here. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys very soon. But also, I guess before we go, we have to talk about our lovely, lovely patrons, which, by the way, you can become a patron and suggest games on the Patreon. You can do all stuff like that, suggest games, get private messages from me, personal messages. You get to suggest videos for me to react to, all this stuff. And in terms of our Can Never Repay the Baby Gangster tier, we have TieFire02, Jamie Bull, Janet the Banana, Smidge, Rachel S, and Normal Cara. Thank you so much for all your continued support. See you very soon.